I want to be careful in talking about issues pertaining to what happened in New Zealand because I understand that all of these partisan conversations will result in some kind of escalation of some sort. And while many people try to point the finger at me and act like I don't accept responsibility for being a partisan actor, it's ridiculous. I'm like, dude, I know exactly what's going on with all sides. I made a video about it where I said no matter what I say, it will be seen as a partisan attack. I get it. What I want to point out, however, is that when it comes to issues of simple politics, when it comes to me criticizing a Democrat, that's relatively normal. There needs to be some conflict in politics. But the scale to which we're seeing it between left and right is actually much more terrifying. When I make a video and I say, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said something dumb, that's, in my opinion, acceptable American discourse. I think this politician is not smart and should be replaced by a different politician through a voting process. Good. When you see people get on Twitter and start screeching Nazi, threatening violence, and then the other fringe extremist side actually commits violence, none of that is okay. And it's terrifying because no matter what happens, people are taking every single thing to be fuel for the fight between the extremists, and the extremists are recruiting. Now we're seeing something that's, in my opinion, very worrisome. There's a viral tweet, it's got 30,000 retweets, where a guy says, please, we're begging you, we want to ban hate speech. Not realizing that it's the banning of hate speech that actually leads to these problems. As Jack Dorsey said on the Joe Rogan podcast, a woman from the Westboro Baptist Church was de-radicalized by being on Twitter, by being exposed to new ideas, and that he's worried that every day he pushes people to the darkness. BuzzFeed News. After the proliferation of... and actually, there's some nuance here. I want to make sure this is not just what I'm reading here, an issue of free speech or not, but this is where it gets complicated, and this is why I want to talk about the story. They say, after the proliferation of the New Zealand shooting video, Reddit has banned 2 channels showing human death. The subreddits Watch People Die and Gore have been scrubbed from the popular social networking site after users continue to share video of the tragedy in violation of Reddit's terms of service. Now, someone pointed out, they have a comment here, it's really good. The only thing that changed between yesterday and today was Reddit getting negative publicity about those subreddits existing. The platform has turned a blind eye towards the content there for years, much of it far worse than the NZ shooting video. And so I have to wonder, was what they were sharing really against the terms of service? Or is this PR backlash? It seems like when it comes to issues of censorship, when it comes to issues of hurting people's livelihood on YouTube and other platforms, shutting people down on Twitter, banning Alex Jones, for instance, this is what they do. It's in response to bad PR. There's a channel that I'm going to avoid naming because I do not want to get people banned, that's associated with constantly targeting people associated with like anti-SJW types, accusing them of being all the worst things in the book. And they're currently trying to circumvent a YouTube restriction, which is what got Alex Jones banned from YouTube. And I wonder why they're allowed to get away with it. No bad PR. The PR machine works in favor of one direction. Culturally, there's a clear domination. I think it's changing. The main video, the video on my main channel today was about Facebook is dying and it's taking down these left-wing media sites with it, and this is causing a change in youth culture, I believe, to an extent. The social media is allowing people to share ideas and resist the constant, falling off a cliff to the insane left. But let's read through this story. Reddit banned 2 contentious but popular groups that regularly featured human injury and death following the widespread sharing of videos from New Zealand. The social network moved to eliminate Watch People Die and Gore less than 24 hours after a shooter killed at least 49 people at 2 mosques in Christchurch. We get all that part. I'm going to move on. We are very clear in our site terms of service that posting content that incites or glorifies violence will get users and communities banned from Reddit. Except it didn't. Watch People Die, while it's not something I cared to ever look at, I've seen every so often on Reddit, it's people who watch gruesome videos. I will say, there is something to be said for people becoming desensitized to watching those kinds of things. You got to be really careful with that. My dad was a firefighter for 25 or so years, and he made a point that sometimes firefighters wish for fires. And what that means is not that they want anyone to get hurt, but they want to be firefighters. They want to be out there fighting fires, so they hope something happens so they can go out and do their jobs. Otherwise, they're sitting around kind of bored all day. And you have to realize that people, it's kind of scary. There's a lot of things that happen with desensitization on the internet, where people become used to seeing horrifying things, or actually, we're gonna jump right in. You ready for this? Porn. There's a lot of articles about how people are becoming so desensitized to regular, intercourse. I'll say intercourse, that they need the craziest fringe fetish nonsense because they're becoming desensitized to it. In that capacity, I feel like it could be dangerous to have certain subreddits like Watch People Die and Gore. But ultimately, there's a conundrum in being for freedom, in that you recognize all things in moderation. Is porn overwhelmingly bad? In my opinion, no. I recognize that some people have problems with it. Are drugs bad? In my opinion, no. But some people have problems with it. So the issue is, often people overreact because some people have problems and they get rid of everything. Prohibition was a bad idea. Some people are alcoholics. Okay, well, we need a solution for that. Some people are heroin addicts. We need a solution for that. Some things are extremely addictive, like opiates. We definitely need a solution for that. But jailing, imprisoning, and prohibition don't seem to work. It creates a black market. It creates violence. It creates death. So when it comes to issues of censorship, some people have problems, but most people don't. And when it comes to sharing ideas, I feel like you need to, banning certain platforms, banning certain ideas and certain speech is going to have an opposite effect. More importantly, what all they're doing here, right? While I recognize it worries me that people will watch these videos all day, it's going to make them go crazy in my opinion, but at least they're still on Reddit, getting a balance of some regular opinions. I think the appropriate thing to do is deranking. The challenge is, who do you derank and why, and then you're becoming an editor, and that's where the challenge is. Who gets censored? How do you determine? And YouTube's doing that, and that can be really dangerous. We want to make sure that people are moving away from extreme views and becoming, chill. Like, I don't care if you've got ridiculous political opinions, far left, far right, whatever, as long as you're not violent. You can sit in your home and do whatever you want and draw pictures of I don't care what, you hugging Stalin or whatever, as long as you don't want to kill people and hurt people and do terrifying things. It's worrying when people end up in these echo chambers. And the reason why banning subreddits like these, in my opinion, is probably not the right move, although I don't know what the right move necessarily is, because they're going to go somewhere else to get their fix. They're going to go to another website where they will never be exposed to normal people, and the echo chamber will get worse. It's what Jack said. He was pushing people toward the darkness. That's terrifying. This is not solving the problem. Maybe there is no way to solve the problem, but maybe you could at least slow the process down. Which is why it's really frustrating when people say that, like, YouTube radicalizes people. Twitter probably radicalizes people way more than YouTube does, because YouTube wants to promote more mainstream content. Are you going to see fringe ideas and opinions? Of course you will. But think about the people you might watch and then find me. In some of the accusations made against me, they claim that somebody who watches or who watches like a white nationalist might watch my channel afterwards, which is de-radicalization. But they don't want to draw that distinction because these people like the culture war, they like lying. The reality is, having more people on YouTube, even with conservative or, anti-identitarian, moderate leftist, liberal positions, is going to help mix things up and de-radicalize people. It's kind of like if you have boiling hot water and you mix it with cold water. Actually, that could explode, and that's when the tribes get too crazy. But warm water with cold water together, and you'll get some tepid water. And tepid water is better. It's less volatile. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but scientists, I'm pretty sure if you throw like boiling water into cold water, it could blow up. Because I'm pretty sure I've exploded some mugs that way. Maybe I'm wrong, but you get the point I'm trying to make. They say Reddit's decision to remove Gore and the 7-year-old Watch People Die subreddits illustrates the tension social networks face as they police content that violate their rules in real time. Except, as it was pointed out, they're only doing it because of bad PR. We'll just jump down to that point. The only thing that changed is, a Reddit user who asked to be identified as Alex said she had followed Watch People Die for a few weeks, watching footage that included videos of people being shot and set on fire and executions. The videos, she said, helped her understand the actual cost of life. But when I watched clips of the New Zealand video, it became even more devastating, she said to BuzzFeed News. It made right-wing extremism not just something on paper. I think people would take the shooting a lot more seriously if they saw the video, she added. That's another thing, too. There have been some viral videos before YouTube and before these websites that I've actually encouraged my friends to watch. Most people say, don't watch them. They're terrifying. There's a video where 3 dudes execute a random guy in the woods. And I said, listen, man, you're an adult. You can't live in a world where you don't recognize these things exist. While I certainly wouldn't recommend you watch these nonstop and, make yourself go crazy, it's important to realize what the real world looks like. When you're outside of your safety bubble, when you're outside of your beautiful American jurisdiction with wealth, when you walk into gang territory in an active conflict, you're going to see these things. And I've seen them in real life. And I've watched the videos. Because, again, you shouldn't get addicted to it. That's terrifying. You need help if you are addicted to watching these things. But understanding what really exists is going to be important. Some people pass out when they see blood. When I did my hostile environment training, they showed us a femoral bleed of a pig. One guy just collapsed. Boom, hit the ground. And what we were told is that you don't know if you'll pass out. Just some people do. They get overstimulated and their heart stops beating, or they lose blood pressure and they just drop. The dude wasn't shocked. He just shut down. And they had to lay him down and pull his feet up. It's important that you know how you'll respond when you see some things like this. It was a few months ago. I was driving home and there was a car accident in front of us, and we were there literally right after the accident hit. We came up around the hill and we saw the cars in the street and the bodies were flung out. It was two people on the ground, I believe. One guy, his legs were gone. And when I say gone, I'm trying to spare you actually imagining what his legs actually looked like. And so for those that may be triggered or just don't want to hear it, this is your warning. I'm going to say something really, really awful. The person laying on the ground, his legs looked like ground beef. It looked like it was put through halfway through a meat grinder, and he was struggling to move. There's also videos from France where a guy's hand was blown off and you can see it twitching, and this stuff will devastate you. If you're not prepared for this, when you see it, you could vomit, you could pass out, you could panic, you could go into shock. These things, people don't seem to understand. Movies are not real. When you watch a movie, you do not feel the same way. Trust me when I say, when you actually witness gore, mutilation, death, it is a dramatically different feeling that you will never be prepared for. Not everyone feels the same way. But to those who've served in combat overseas, who have seen real death, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. There is a feeling you get when you see that, and it is so dramatically different from what you even see on a video. When you watch these videos, you will not feel what you would feel when you see it in real life. The feeling I can't describe. So anyway, we'll leave it there. I don't want to prattle on too long. The ultimate point I'm trying to make is banning subreddits and banning conversations in response to bad PR is going to make things worse. It is. Do I like that people watch these videos? I absolutely don't. There's a good point to be made that it's going to show you the severity of these issues, but more importantly, all it's going to do is push them into an echo chamber. They will crave more, they will find more, and now there's no one to talk them down. Stick around, I got more videos coming up, and I will see you in just a few minutes.